So today, the Justice Initiative and some Ware County leaders are continuing their efforts to see District Attorney George Barnhill recalled. Now, they are upset with his actions surrounding the Ahmaud Arbery case. Arbery was shot and killed while in the Satya Shores neighborhood while jogging back in February. So initially, Barnhill stated that no charges would be filed in Arbery's death, but he later recused himself from the case in April. Currently, 3 men are facing charges now in the shooting death of Arbery after the Georgia Bureau of Investigations got involved. Now that brings us to today. Troy Kless, he joins us with the very latest on the push to recall DA Barnhill.
Thank you, Katie. So the pastor that led today's press conference is asking for people to sign a petition to force that recall election for this fall. He says that the goal is to gain over at least 20,000 signatures. They're at the halfway mark right now, is what he said today, in order to force that recall election. Now, that is from voters that can be throughout the Waycross Judicial Circuit. That includes Ware County and some of its surrounding counties as well. Reverend Pharrell Malone Sr. spoke today, and he said that this started soon after Barnhill justified the Arbery shooting in the same letter in which he recused himself.
If you recuse yourself, you offer no opinion on a situation. He should have recused himself and closed the letter. He recused himself and tried to justify the killing as innocent. And that, my brothers and sisters, is a violation of his oath of office because he tried to utilize the law to cover up a lie.
And we have tried to reach out to DA Barnhill for a comment about not just this protest, but some of the controversy that he has come under following the Arbery shooting, and he was unavailable for comment today. We're going to have more on this story starting on First Coast News tonight at 5 o'clock. Live in Ware County, Troy Kless, First Coast News on your side.